Welcome to the Music for the Soul podcast, where we talk honestly about difficult things. This is a place where music, hope, and healing come together. I'm Becky Nordquist.
And I'm Steve Seiler. Today we are happy to have with us Jen Mozley. Jen is a songwriter, a worship leader, a mom, all sorts of good things. And we're gonna cover the waterfront with her this morning. Good morning, Jen.
It's so good to be a part of this. Thank y'all so much for asking me.
Sure.
Oh, I am so glad to finally get to have a little chat with you today. I'm excited to hear about your story and how music has been important to you and your work with Music for the Soul. Now, you used the word y'all. So where y'all from?
Georgia.
Georgia.
I normally draw out my eyes a lot in the alls and eyes.
How about them dogs?
Yeah, they're doing great.
I love it.
I probably didn't pronounce that right. You should say it.
How about them dogs?
There you go. That's
Is that
better.
how you do it?
I have to say it's one of my favorite accents. Just got to get that out there.
I have to tell a story. When I was working at A&M Records in Hollywood, California, back in the 70s, I just gotten this job as the national merchandising coordinator. And one of my jobs was to call around the country to record stores when we had a new release and ask them, which artists do you want to feature in your store? Who do you want posters of and stuff like that? And one of my first calls was to Georgia. And this person answered the phone and I thought, oh my gosh, he's speaking a foreign language. I have no idea what this man is saying. And I didn't want to be rude, but I was like, pardon me, excuse me. Could you say that again, please? And it was just, oh man.
I feel that way when I talk to people that talk really fast from the north. It's so funny. I'm like, can you just dial it back down a little bit? Slow down for me.
Well, I got to hear all the accents of the country in that job, and eventually I did come to be able to understand them. But that's such a funny memory for me.
Oh,
well, sometime before March of 2021, Jen, you sent me a song to my email address. And I believe, am I correct, Sue Smith of Write About Jesus was the one who told you about us, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you sent me a song, and I've known Sue and worked with her and taught at Write About Jesus many times. So, when she sends me something, I generally pay attention. But for whatever reason, your email got pushed down, and it was several weeks or maybe even months, I'm not sure, before I thought, oh, wait a minute, I haven't listened to this. And when I clicked on the song and listened, I was in my living room. The TV was on. It wasn't like I was giving it my full attention. And it was one of those moments where, oh, wait a minute. I need to mute the television. Or turn it off. I need to pay attention to this. I found the song passionate and compelling. Your delivery was, we talk about whether a vocalist is renting to own or whether you believe them. And I totally believed you. And so I immediately emailed you and said, hey, can we talk? And subsequent to that, the song Reveal Me, you were gracious enough to allow us to put that on our website. So just want to thank you for that. And want to encourage people. We're going to listen to a little bit of that in a bit, but I just want to encourage people to go to our website and check out Reveal Me.
Yeah, I was honored to just the fact that you responded and we were able to connect afterwards, and it's been awesome.
So great. And Reveal Me, it's a song about identity and how it's often in the wreckage of our sorrows and pain that God reveals his purpose, his power, and his plan for our lives. So I've got to ask, what inspired you to write Reveal Me?
It was an ache that really needed to get out of my soul. I had struggled with anxiety and depression, really just kicked into gear around college when I was in college, and didn't know what it was. I just knew I was having panic attacks and just felt hopelessness. And it wasn't like anything in my life was awful at that point. It wasn't necessarily circumstantial. It was just for no reason. I just for so many days, and it lingered into months and even stretched into years. I was very active. So I played soccer since I was 8. And so it helped a lot to be a part of the soccer team in my college. And that distracted me a lot, I believe. I was able to get by, but it was always this lingering just ache. And, I didn't get into music until I was a little bit older. And I just started picking up a guitar. Like my family is all into music, but I was just terribly afraid of singing in public and just putting myself out there. And so no one really knew that I sang or did anything until I was about 19. And I finally was brave enough to, step out and sing in front of people. And just music in general and the words that I couldn't speak necessarily in a conversation very well came out through music. And it was just a way that I could connect with my own personal feelings and struggles. And also a way I was able to connect with God. And so it just kind of poured out of me. And, I worked through a lot of the rewriting process and just wanted to get it exactly right, exactly the way that I was feeling, just the vulnerability of being revealed and exposing anything that I might need to know about. Like you have all these things that are inside of you that are hidden that really do need to be exposed in order to find healing for them.
Amen. There's two things that come to mind. First, I want to ask you if you're comfortable with sharing with our listeners. Obviously, depression and anxiety is something that I've walked through as well. And I'm just wondering if you'd be willing to share, what did that look like for you? Right now, anxiety is like the number one diagnosis that we're seeing in the medical community of all ages. It is unreal, the numbers. And I know college is a big age bracket where they're seeing more and more. So I'm just wondering if you could share a little bit of your experience of what that looked like in a typical day walking through with depression and anxiety, just to give our listeners maybe a little understanding of what that's like.
For me, it was just the feeling of like, I don't belong here or that I'm very different. Why do I feel so different? A lot of the social aspects of, just being in a classroom I didn't go to a big college, but, you have these fairly large classes. And you would think out of a class of, 150, you would be able to connect with somebody. But it was just so hard for me to do that. I didn't find out till I was an adult that I was diagnosed with ADHD. And this is more of a recent thing of just kind of like understanding what that is and how it affects people. And I know that all this time of like a lot of blaming myself or like, why can't I get focused? Why can't I, follow through on things? I was the one in class that I didn't talk, but my mind was going a million miles per hour. And I couldn't process anything the professor was really saying. I struggled a lot in college in grade school and in high school. Like none of that was really present. Like I did fairly well. It wasn't much of a challenge for me. But as soon as college hit, it was like, wake up, Jennifer. This is the real world. You don't have somebody to hold your hand and help you study or keep you on track, keep you organized. And it was just, I had to deal with this crazy chaos in my brain, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know what it was. I just knew like, why can't I, have a real conversation with someone? I always felt very awkward, and I still do sometimes, but at least I know like it's okay. It's okay to be.
Well, I'm thinking you probably realize now that you're not alone in that struggle. That isn't it the
Yes.
hardest thing, right? You're sitting in that huge class thinking, oh my goodness, everyone's not awkward, but I am. And
Right.
in
Yeah.
reality, probably half the class feels exactly the same way. And we talk about that a lot, where isolation and thinking that you're different from everyone else when actually you're more like everybody else than you would think. And I just how interesting that your prayer was reveal me, right?
Mhm. Yeah. And
And
I really needed that because there were so many things that just like I
mm,
wasn't aware of that
right.
that was a part of me, that even stuff, in my past that I had buried and I didn't think was a big deal ended up being a pretty big deal,
Mhm.
and just kind of working through that and processing it. It took a lot of time and
Mm.
energy, and I mean you still are working through the process,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
And
And
courage. It takes courage
mhm,
to do that. Thank you for being courageous and chasing
mm,
it down. I love that you were faithful to that prayer, that song, and you didn't shy away from him revealing a lot to you. And, I've once heard it said that the greatest day and the worst day of your life is the day that you face yourself.
oh my goodness, yes,
Right?
yes, hmm,
It's so hard. It's so hard. But I love how I'm hearing this understanding like, oh, well, now that all makes sense. I mean, it's
hmm,
not a denial of what you've just learned, but oh, okay.
hmm,
There's hope in that acknowledgement. And I just love how you share that with us. And thank you so much for
hmm,
having courage and sharing with our listeners today.
You said earlier that it was an ache that you had to get out. One of my co-writers, a gentleman named Ty Lacey, prolific, talented man, he and I wrote several songs together in Nashville when I was a CCM staff writer. And he said something that I actually wrote on the top of my lyric page. He said, one day we were writing a song and he said, it's got to have that ache.
Mm.
And I was like,
yeah,
oh. And so I wrote at the top of my book, I have a lyric book every year. And at the top of the song titles page, I wrote, it's got to have that ache. So that every time I opened my lyric book, I saw that
hmm,
phrase and was reminded that that's where songs need to come from. They need to come from true, honest, authentic places, even if they're painful, or maybe
hmm.
especially if they're painful.
Yes. I think that's a huge thing in the healing process is just being vulnerable with your emotions and actually allowing yourself to feel it. And, it's so easy to kind of like put it in this little box and avoid the feelings, avoid the pain because it
Mhm.
hurts when you open that box. You
Mhm.
and listening to some of these songs that you have on your website and just so many other songs that really speak honestly and truthfully. It's not, this gift wrap package of a song. It's a messy thing.
Yes.
And I think that those are the songs, at least for me, that I really connect with because I feel seen and understood and
Mm.
knowing that I am not actually alone.
Well, that's so great to hear. Thank you. Thank you. You know what? We've been talking about Reveal Me. Let's just play a little bit of it for a sec.
My vision has been blurred from the shadows of my past. I have covered with this mask, but you see underneath a little child you adore, and you are saying I am yours. Remind me who I am. Show me who I'm made to be. Reveal me, expose every lie, unveil my eyes, reveal me.
So beautiful. I just love that song.
Mhm.
So you served as a full-time worship leader and creative arts director at a church in Columbus, Georgia for 11 years. But before I ask you about that, when I see Columbus, Georgia, I think of the one time I've ever been in jail. And
I know you've mentioned that to me before.
I know our listeners would love to hear about
Yes.
that. One of my goals when I went on the road with my band was I want to see all 50 states and have an experience in all 50 states. And we were playing in Columbus, Georgia, at a place called Ethel's Gas House. It was attached to a Holiday Inn. You know, we're playing Man Eater and Funky Town and all the hits, right? And wearing our powder blue jumpsuits with sequins. And then on our off days, I would take the van and I would drive to the nearest cool place, right? So I thought, I'm going to drive down to the Okefenokee Swamp, right? So I get down there, I'm paddling around in the canoe. Here's an alligator. We're not in the zoo. Like, this is a real alligator. And I'm out in the open and I'm thinking, I wonder if this is a good idea. Anyway, so I made it a habit of cutting it pretty close, getting it back to the wherever it was we were playing. So I got in my car and I look at the map and I go, I plotted out my course. I think, I can make this. I'll be 10 minutes early or whatever, right? So I start driving and I would use these little side roads sometimes. And so I came to this road and I got about halfway down it and I came to a place where the road stopped and there was a stream. And there was this guy with like a platform and a big stick, and he would take cars across this stream one at a time, right? Well, naturally, that took a few minutes. By the time I got to the other side of the stream, it was like, holy cow, I'm late now. I gotta hoof it. So I am driving, Jen, through back roads, Georgia, at 100 miles.
Oh no!
And I'm thinking, I can make this. I can make this. This is the kind of thing men in their 20s do, right? And so anyway,
in their 20s only.
So I look down and it's like, okay, it's 10 minutes till and I'm only 10 miles away. I can make this, right? Never mind, I have to shower and get dressed and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, I see up on the side of the road ahead of me, there's a police car parked. And I thought, he's waiting for me. I have driven through a speed trap. Yeah. So rather than keep going, I literally slowed down, pulled and parked in front of him because I thought I got to get all the goodwill I can. It was like, yes, it was me. I was speeding. I'm late. And he said, you follow me into town. And exactly at downbeat at 9 o'clock, when I was supposed to be on the stage, I was sitting at a stoplight in front of the nightclub on my way to jail. This is before cell phones, people. I have not told anybody what's happening. So, of course, none of my band members even know where I am. The next thing they hear from me, it's 9:30. I'm at the Columbus, city jail, and I've my one phone call. I'm calling my bandmates to bail me out. So there you go. That's Columbus, Georgia's memory for me.
And the only visual I can have in this whole story is you in your powder blue jumpsuit in a rowboat looking at an alligator on some, what was the name of the thing? Ootacoochee? What was the name of the
Okefenokee.
Okefenokee.
Everybody from Georgia knows that, right, Jen?
Okefenokee. I got to remember that.
We've called it the Chattanasty.
Okay.
Or
All right,
that.
very good. So anyway,
that visual of him in the powder blue jumpsuit was chatted and nasty.
I'm sorry. Anyway, so you did creative arts at this church for 11 years. What are they? What are the creative arts besides the worship music?
Well, our church was it's kind of a mid-size, smaller size church. And so, of course, we had the worship team with musicians and everything, but we had several very talented people involved in drama and dance in particular. The creative arts side of that role kind of was near like the later end of my time there, that I started that role. And I just wanted to implement different sides of creative elements in the service. And so it wasn't every Sunday, but we had special Sundays where we would have this beautiful dance and just like even just through an instrumental, or they were dancing through, the worship set. Well, we had several times when we were doing Easter services, and we normally did those outside. And we had this amazing lady come, and just beautiful, like flowing dress, and like even the movement of it was like everything was strategic and just so beautiful. And it just painted a picture that went perfectly with the story that we were telling. And to me, it just made the music and the message just bring it to a whole new light. That, and we did a few things with drama. We had this fun little kids thing that we would do called Jingle Jam. So we played a little role in that, and that was mainly the adults, and then getting into little kids involved was really always hilarious. So yeah, I just love every element of art. We also had a actual painter come and paint live while we were, I think that was on a Good Friday service. He just gorgeously painted this picture of Jesus with the crown of thorns. And then we also did a few services with just like these tables that represented the kind of like stations. We had one table where it was like interactive, like you go and physically touch this crown of thorns, and it was piercing, just like physically touching these pieces of art as a way of just experiencing just a little tiny taste of
Mhm.
what Jesus went through.
There are so many ways that people can know and learn. Tactile is one way, audio, visual,
Mm-hmm.
all the arts can touch you in so many different places. I think you're right. It's so powerful when you can combine those to create a unique experience.
Mm,
I love that. Often people in the church have other gifts other than singing.
right.
And for so long, it was kind of monocular. If you didn't play an instrument or you didn't sing, well, then you couldn't contribute really with your gift because there wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
place for it. More and more, we're seeing other creative arts. People are doing photography and
Mm-hmm.
doing little art galleries in the foyer as people come in that honor God and point to Him, and paintings, and like you mentioned, doing paintings during music and dance. And it's such a blessing. I was blessed to be a part of a church that had a huge creative arts department, and it was wonderful how it was very inclusive of just about every art you can imagine. And
Mm-hmm.
it offers up this opportunity for artists of every medium to lend their gifts to glorify God in the church setting. And if we aren't offering that,
Mm,
where else can people go? God
right.
created them to do those things. And I think it's absolutely lovely and wonderful that you were part of offering that place for people to honor God in that way. Now, were you a worship leader as well there? Because we know you sing and write music. Did you do worship leading
that
too?
that was the first thing that I started doing was, I joined the worship team when me and my husband got married in 2009. That was the first thing. I was like, I have to join the
Mm-hmm.
worship team.
Yep.
and and so I did, and then I got involved maybe a year later in more of a leadership role. And so they started offering me to actually lead and choose the songs and be a part of service flow and everything like that.
Fantastic. Could you share with us and our listeners, as we're talking about the arts and music, was there a time in your life that a specific song impacted you deeply?
One of the earliest memories I have of just, I guess, feeling something when music was being played. My dad was the music director for our church back in Douglasville, Georgia, and he would always play just amazing piano. Has of course a wonderful voice, and he and my mom would always sing these we call them train songs, this train to heaven, kind of songs. And then I would always, start to be a little bit more curious about, okay, who is this God? Who are they singing about? And when I was about 8 or 9, I remember sitting in the back. I was in the back row next to my mom, and there was this man on stage, and he was sitting in this chair, very casual. He had his acoustic guitar, and he just started just pouring out his soul in this beautiful song. And the melody and everything, I wish I could be like, oh, I remember exactly how it went and all the lyrics and everything. But it was just looking at this most sincere person telling this beautiful story of the love of Jesus that was the first time I really believed it. And I leaned over to my mom in the pew and I whispered in her ear, I said, I believe.
Mm.
And my mom kind of looked at me, and then that was kind of like the first moment that I really could say, like, okay, I believe in what he's singing about. And like, it's like if I close my eyes, I can like visually see this man ingrained in my mind, and just his faithfulness of just the fact that he showed up, he played a solo. There was nothing else going on. It was him and acoustic guitar.
Wow.
And it was just, I would say that was the song, that was the moment that really led me to Christ. And
Wow.
since then, I feel like, music has like always been a part of my life, even though I didn't feel confident with it or brave enough in the moment to take a step in that direction. But it had always had a huge impact on me, especially with my walk with God.
Wow.
Randy was his name, I think you said.
Mm-hmm.
What I hear in that is he may not even know this story. And it's such a great reminder. We have a phrase we use a lot, audience of one. You never know who you're playing for.
Right.
But if you do everything as unto the Lord, if you serve that audience of one, then Jesus connects the dots.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Lord knew that you needed to hear music in that way, in that moment, to believe.
Yeah.
And that's not something anybody can plan for. And that's the thing that I'm constantly amazed by in doing music ministry is the stories you hear back and go, wow, I'm not that good. I did not plan that. I just played a song, or we just wrote a song, or we just shared some music. And what can happen when people do that? You said he did it from a sincere place. And you were touched by that, by the vulnerability. One man, one guitar, just sitting up there
Yeah.
playing a song in a small church, no accolades, no record deal, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So,
You know what I love too about that story is the ripple effect,
yes,
right? I mean, so you go from, how old did you say you were?
8 or 9,
I
she
think
said.
I was about 8 or 9.
8 or 9. This little girl sitting in the church, and the Spirit of God knew that he was going to come and rest on her heart through this music. And fast forward, and the Lord uses that moment to plant a seed in her to write a lyric that says, reveal me, expose every lie, unveil my eyes, reveal me. I need you to lead the way. Help me with letting go, because these wounds are hard to show. Remind me who I am and show me who I am made to be. And some people never find the courage to speak lyrics like that. It takes the spirit of a living God to well up within you, to give you the courage to be honest like that and then receive an answer from him. And I'm just so, Randy, whoever you are, the Randys of the world, thank you.
Yes.
You do not know how the ripple effect can go from one faithful act of service. And it's not always showy. Sometimes you're just smiling at someone as they walk in the door. It does not have to be on the stage, but it can have a huge ripple effect.
Every moment is a pebble in the pond.
Amen. Amen.
Every moment. Well, speaking of every moment, you shared with me that you've been looking at this idea of extraordinary living, which I think is really interesting. Can you say something about that to our listeners?
So this concept was actually revealed to me not too long ago. I started a residency at our new church here. We moved recently a few years ago, and we're now in Snellville, Georgia. And I started this residency with our church, Grace Snellville, and just a lot of just kind of immersed in leadership training and things like that. And one of the things that was told about this idea of extraordinary prayer, extraordinary living, and they had said, okay, what is the one extra thing that you could do every day or every week that would make a difference, one extra good thing to serve someone, serve God, serve your family, serve, your household, however, serve someone else. What's the one extra thing that you could do so that it becomes ordinary, more like a habit? And then your life would become extraordinary just by doing that one extra thing. And when that concept was shared with me in the training, I was just like, wow, okay. I wrote that down, big bold letters. I was like, okay, I need to take this home with me and really chew on it. And, because of my struggle with anxiety, depression, and learning about, ADHD and how that has affected my thinking of just myself and just learning through that. I think the idea of just doing one thing, it makes it not as overwhelming. For people like me, I can see a million things and say, oh my gosh, I get so overwhelmed.
Mhm.
But once I really get my mind wrapped around, okay, if I can do this one load of laundry for my husband, if I can spend 5 extra minutes playing with my kids, playing hide and go seek with my kids, if I can spend 2 more minutes a day in prayer, if I can sing one more worship song, just one, it makes it seem not as overwhelming, more so that I can create this habit that's the spiritual discipline of just this extraordinary living. And I think that's the life that God has called us to, is to live that way. And I've really, really just kind of wrapped my head around that recently. And I think that's been a game changer.
Jen, I love that. We have a lot in common. I have a girlfriend that we used to talk all the time because, especially for moms, right? We get so overwhelmed. I mean, the laundry never ends. The toys are
Yes.
everywhere. Or, even with teenagers, the stuff. And we used to talk about how we'd feel paralyzed because it was just too much to
Exactly.
take in.
Right.
And we can do this to ourselves spiritually too, right? Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, I have to do this Bible study. Oh my goodness, there's like 10 pages and I haven't even started. And
Right.
I feel like the Lord is more and more saying, no, 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 daughter, just one thing, just one
Yes.
thing at a time.
Yes.
Talk to me one
Mm.
sentence at a time. You're doing dishes? Tell me about doing dishes.
Yeah.
So often we complicate and clutter things. And I just love this concept.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I'm going to join you with the extra one
Yes.
thing,
This is a
right?
bandwagon I think most Christians, or if not all, need to jump on, because
Mhm.
it's I mean, I've only recently, started really trying to just focus on the one thing,
Yeah.
and it really has. It's opened up. It's allowed myself to feel, give myself grace,
Mhm.
which before I would feel just so guilty. Like, why can't I take care of my 16-month-old child and stay at home and do, also get the dishes done? Like, I'm here all day, right? I should be
Oh,
able to
yeah.
do
Oh.
XYZ plus watch him. Like,
Mhm.
so many other people do that.
Don't
And,
forget to write
in
the
my
songs
mind,
too. Don't forget to write the songs.
right. But it's like, in my mind, I'm putting all this weight on my shoulder. Like, I should be able to
Mhm.
do all these things. And God is just saying, just breathe in his grace,
Mhm.
accept his grace, just focus on the one thing.
'Cause it's doable. It's doable. I think we
Yes.
like that
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming place in all of these things. We just pile it on and then all we can hear is fail.
Uh-huh.
Eh.
Yep.
And if in just one thing, yeah, that's doable thing. And then it turns into more than one thing,
Right. Yeah.
it's just I love that concept. Thank you for sharing that. Oh my goodness.
Well, speaking of one thing, I can tell you one thing that I asked you to do recently that you did, you made time for.
Mm.
We have a project we're working on called Innocent Child for sexual abuse survivors. And there's a song called No Power Over Me that I wanted to have a female vocal 4, and you came to Nashville and recorded a beautiful version of that, which is something that we're going to be sharing later in the year. But I want to be able to let people know that you have some music on the streaming services and you have a website. As I listened to your stuff, because I listened to all of it, and I thought that your music is kind of a mixture of pop and worship. I don't know if worship pop is a category or not, but that's kind of how it hit me.
We can make it one.
Exactly. But there was one song on there that really touched me. It was called Still Small Voice. It was really, really beautiful. I encourage our listeners to check that out. Can you tell people how they can get a hold of you?
I have a website. It's jenmozley.com. It's JenMozley.com. They can check out anything that's on there. And then there's also a place to reach out and email me. It's just jenmozleymusic@gmail.com.
Jen, thank you so much for joining us today. And oh my goodness, so many wonderful things that you've shared with us and our listeners. Can't say thank you enough and how much we appreciate you. And obviously, I'm so grateful that you're going to be a part of that Innocent Child Project. It's a dear one to my heart. And yes, thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank y'all so much for asking and allowing me to be a part of this.
Our pleasure.
If you enjoyed the discussion today, please share it with a friend and give us a positive review on iTunes.
And please visit our website, musicforthesoul.org, where you can stream or download every song in our catalog, including Reveal Me. Read our lyrics, our healing music guide, our blog posts, and much more. Thank you for listening. God bless.
My vision has been blurred from the shadows of my past. I have covered with this mask, but you see underneath a little child you adore, and you are saying I am yours. Remind me who I am. Show me who I'm made to be. Reveal me, expose every lie, unveil my eyes. Reveal me. I need you to lead the way. Help me with letting go, 'cause he's one